The government cares about animal welfare. It believes that animals are capable of feeling pain. That is the message the Environment Secretary Michael Gove is bringing to us this morning. It's an effort to bring to an end a swirling controversy fuelled by online chatter about what happened when amendments to the EU Withdrawal Bill included one that made sure that existing EU rules on welfare were transferred across when we leave. The government said no, and the amendment in particular was defeated, and that then led to an outcry and some wild and some people say false reporting, and yet there are those who still say that the government has some explaining to do. We will talk to Michael Gove in just a moment, but first to Gudrun Ravetz, who is Senior Vice President of the British Veterinary Association and is on the line. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
What's Mr Gove getting right and what's he getting wrong?
The important point to note with this is what Article 13 says and what Article 13 means.
And this is the EU regulation, the protocol in the Lisbon Treaty.
It is. And Article 13 puts a duty on the state to pay full regard to animal welfare for a specific set of policies and explicitly states that animals are sentient. Now, the Animal Welfare Act 2006, which is UK law, puts the duty for the animal welfare on the owner or keeper. And although it implicitly states animals are sentient in the explanatory notes, that is only for vertebrates. So the difference we're looking at is Article 13 is a duty on the state to take full regard to animal welfare and is explicit about animal sentience, whereas the Animal Welfare Act is a duty on the owner and it's implicit about sentience of animals and vertebrates for protected animals. And that's a significant difference.
And if it is a significant difference, what practical impact could it have if you were left with the 2006 Act and not the EU legislation?
If we didn't have the principle of Article 13 brought in, then there wouldn't be that duty on the state to pay full regard to animal welfare.
So in what kind of case then could we think of where that would matter?
So the Article 13 principle is for formulating and implementing specific policies. So this can be things around fisheries, transports, internal market. And what is the concern is, although I'm not a policymaker, I'm a veterinary surgeon and our oath is to animal welfare, what is important is that the state takes into account that animal welfare when formulating and implementing those policies. And so that if we don't have that in, that there will be no regard by the state to animal welfare when implementing and formulating policies. And that we can see when we look at agriculture, fisheries, transport, and the others that are written into that could be very important.
Right. So when people say that animals could suffer more because this EU legislation has not been brought across, you think, broadly speaking, that could be true?
I think it's important if we don't have a principle that the state has to take into account animal welfare. Now, we welcome what Michael Gove has been saying and what Theresa May has been saying, but what they're not saying is how they are going to bring that principle so that they, as the state, have to take into account animal welfare. And that is a very important principle. We have the duty of animal welfare for the owner and keeper under the Animal Welfare Act, and that will continue. But what we want to see is that duty to the state.
Gudrun Ravetz, Senior Vice President of the British Veterinary Association. Thank you, Mike.